Today we're going to pick up our story of Esther, Queen Esther. Like I have all of my pretty princess queen type jewelry and decorations on, and in Katie Joy's pretty pink princess room. So I am in the mode. I'm ready. So Miss Crystal last week talked about Queen Esther. Esther was just an ordinary girl. She wasn't a royal girl. She didn't grow up in the palace. She was just a regular Jewish girl. And she was chosen out of all the other girls to be queen. And we found out that even though she was just an ordinary girl, God had a great purpose for her, right? And that goes for guys and girls. God has a big, big, big purpose for all of you. No matter if you're boy, girl, how old you are, anything. It doesn't matter. God's got something for you. So with Esther, so she was chosen as queen. And like I said, she was a Jewish girl. And the Jewish people are people who followed God. They were God's people. They followed God the Father. And they followed the teachings of Moses and all the Old Testament stories that you hear. That was them. That's the Jewish people. So very special people to God. So Esther, she was in the palace, and there was one of the king's leaders named Haman. And he was a really bad guy. He wasn't a good guy. He was the bad guy in the story. So Haman didn't like the Jewish people. He didn't like the Jews. So he convinced the king to make a law that would kill all of the Jewish people. So the king didn't know that Esther was a Jewish girl. He didn't know that she was a Jew. So he didn't think anything of it. He said, okay, we'll kill all the Jewish people. So Esther had a cousin named Mordecai. And he kind of looked out for her, and he heard about it. And he said, you know what, Esther, you're there in the palace. You have some pull in here. Maybe this is why God had you become queen for such a time as this. So maybe that's why God put you there, is to save our people. So Esther and Mordecai and all of the Jewish people, they decided to pray really hard and fast. That means they didn't even eat for 3 days because they were praying so hard. They wanted to completely focus all their thoughts on God and on praying for this situation. So they did that for 3 days. They prayed. And so after that, Esther went to the king. And even though she was queen, she couldn't just walk up to the king and say, hey, I need something. That was against the rules. She had to have the courage to go up to the king and say, can I please talk to you? And so she put on all her royal things, her crown, maybe some rings, jewelry, all of this stuff. She put all that on, put on her royal clothes, and went to see the king. And he said, sure, come on in. You can come and see me. So she asked the king and Haman to a banquet, so a big fancy dinner. So had their fancy pitchers of whatever drink they were drinking, with their little cups and saucers, and so a big banquet where they could eat. So the king said, I guess he must have been really impressed, because he said, whatever you want, Queen Esther, I will give it to you. Even if it's up to half the kingdom, you can have it. So she was in a really good position, huh? She was in a really good place to ask him for whatever she wanted, which was to not kill the Jews. So she asked him to come back, him and Haman, to come back for a second banquet. So they're going to have another big feast and get all of their stuff and their fancy cups and dishes and all of this stuff. They did it again. So this time she said, okay, King, I need to ask you a favor. She said, if the king is pleased, please spare my life and the life of my people. We've been sold out to destruction and death. And so the king, he didn't know she was a Jewish girl, did he? So he said, wait a minute, who made this plan? That's horrible. I don't want to do that to you. And she told him, Haman made this plan. So instead of the Jews and Queen Esther being killed, Haman was killed for what he did. So even though we started out with just a normal, ordinary young girl named Esther, she rose up to be queen, and she was able to save all of her people, all of her family, and all of her friends, and hundreds and probably thousands of people were saved because of her and her courage to do what she knew God had put her there for. So, isn't that awesome? And like I said, it's either, even if you're boy or girl, if you're 8 years old or you're 100 years old, if God's got something for you, He's going to give you that courage. He's going to help you to do whatever you need to do. And He's got a plan for you no matter what, no matter who you are. If you are alive and breathing, He's got a plan for you, and He's got something special for you. And He loves you so much. And I hope to see you guys soon. I love you.